Today's video is a little bit of an Inception type theme where we're making the thumbnail for the previous video, which was how we did the color grading for the video prior to that. It's not really a tutorial this time. It's more of a process video, a little bit of more of a slow burn. You just see me working through things, though I have sped up or removed some of the more erroneous areas that I was exploring that didn't lead to something kind of concrete. Enjoy. The concept of the previous video was how to do a color grade over a long period of time where the lighting changes drastically from the beginning until the end of that filming. And I thought that a thumbnail for that should show the before and after in some way, right? So I'm going to grab stills from the beginning when it's daytime and from the end when it's nighttime. Before the color grade, grab still. After the color grade, grab still. And then one towards the end where we look happy and drunk. Grab a still before the color grade and grab a still after the color grade. Now I want to highlight all of these stills and I'm going to export them, and I want to export them as a PNG. I'm going to call them stills, and I'm going to open up my photo editor. You might be using Photoshop. I use Affinity Photo. And the idea I want to go for here is I want to have the before image up here on the top and the after image here on the bottom. And I want to have the frame from the daytime transitioning towards nighttime. Same down here, day to night. So you'll see me on this half and you'll see my guest on this half, but from the beginning and from the end and from before the color grade into after the color grade. And then I'll probably put a Davinci Resolve logo somewhere, maybe here. And then I'm gonna have like a day and night icon with like a sun and moon here. We'll see how it plays out. It's just the idea. Go ahead and open up my images. Or in fact, I'll try placing them. I think that would be better. Place. I'll just do them one at a time. Still. Can I place all four of them? Let's try that. Okay. Just line them up nicely. And first thing I'll do is the gradients from day to night. Okay, let's grab a mask here and make it one of those gradient masks. I'm using the gradient tool to fill in the mask with a smooth black to white gradient, which is essentially going to smoothly change the opacity of that layer, which is the daytime layer, to reveal the nighttime layer below it. Yeah, that works nicely, right? And then I would like to copy that mask. And we'll add a mask to this one. Paste it. All right, good. So we have the same mask applying for both our before and after day to night. And then presumably I just want our heads on the top half and our heads repeated on the bottom half. So let's go ahead and take these first two, if I can group them. And I'm going to take the second two and group them. And call this one pre. Call this one post. Now I am going to move this up so that our heads are about there. And then I'm going to add another mask. I don't know exactly where halfway is, so let me bring down one of these. Maybe it'll snap halfway. There we go. So I will go like that. And on this mask, I will fill it in with black to hide that. And then I will go down to our other group, pull it down. Good. So we have our day to night before color correction and our day to night after color correction. Throw a Davinci Resolve logo in the middle there. Look for some ideas about what day to night icons might be. I'm going to try to go with something kind of like this. All right, let's assume that's going to work. In the meantime, let's go into Illustrator, or in my case, Affinity Designer. And we're just going to create a sun icon. All right, that looks like a sun, right? I don't know, we got to make it yellow. I'm going to just make it like black for now, and then I can change the colors later. So from daylight to moonlight, I'm going to just subtract that. I'm going to make it a little bigger just to have some visual weight balance. I'm going to make this one smaller, really. That's what I'll do. And I kind of messed up by doing it in this sheet. Let's go ahead and do it in a 1080p one. New, web, full HD. There we go. Something like that. And we'll have an arrow. I'm just going to make that with an arc. And thicken it up in the stroke. Something like that. And we probably want to make it more like white or something. Or rather, even like a orange to bluish white. I don't know. Let's see. Let's make it just white at first. Invert it. Layer. Go ahead and mess around with that. Maybe some kind of like color overlay. Would have been another way to do it. Yeah, that would have been easier, I guess, right? Color overlay. Pick a color. Instead of that, let's do a gradient overlay. Oh, I kind of like that inverted like that. That's kind of nice. I don't really want to add, other colors into this composition, really. So this is nice. Let's keep it like this. And then maybe we don't actually want to change the opacity. Okay, a little bit. That's nice. That's nice, just like that. And we're going to place the thing we downloaded. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I might write the words before and after here just to hit you over the head with it. Let's try. I don't think before and after is helpful, but a really big arrow might be. Maybe this is enough. No text. Let's just keep it like this. I mean, when I see this, I'm actually impressed by the color grade. I mean, this almost looks like these guys are in the same time of day here. You know, when you compare them here versus here, it's surprising. Okay, we're done. Don't overthink it, right? And one last detail before we finish. I actually think I want to add a little bit of separation here between the icons and the background by adding a little bit of a drop shadow, not only to this one, but also to that one. And then the other thing I want to do is I think I actually want to change the direction of the gradient to be so that daylight is light and nighttime is dark, right? I did it this way because there's more contrast, but iconically, it doesn't make sense. So let's try it the other way and see what happens when I do that. Is there a reverse invert? Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not as visible, but it makes more sense iconically. Maybe I can change some things around, like increase the opacity. Yeah, I think that's better, right? It'd be kind of nice to have a little bit of an outer glow on this one. So we have the drop shadow on this side and outer glow on that one. I could make like another layer and then blend between the two with another gradient mask. It sounds getting a bit complicated, but let's go to the other icon. Add a drop shadow there too. I wish it would just take the global settings from the other one. Oh well. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. And then let's try to add a little bit of glow around this. Thomas from the future here. I went down a path for like 20 minutes trying to combine the shadow with the glow and getting really muddy results. So I'm cutting all that out and just going to show you the technique that worked great. So before I had 2 copies of the shape, and then on one of them I was having a mask to blur it out. But then the problem there was one version had a black shadow, and then the version on top had a white glow. But at this part here where they're blended together, it's not actually white because you still have the black one below it. So it ends up being gray. So it went from like black to gray. And the way to do it better was no glows. We were removing the idea of doing the glows on each layer. We're just going to have the shape with its overlay. And now what we're going to do is duplicate that shape, that layer. And then on the bottom of the two, let's go in and change its settings. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to invert its gradient. So the bottom one is going to be, instead of going from white to black, it's going to go from black to white. And then instead of using a glow or a shadow, we're going to just use a Gaussian blur. And we're just going to pump that up. And now the white bits here are going to be white instead of gray. And then if you don't like the intensity, if you wanted it to be more intense, simply duplicate that bottom layer. And now it's even more pronounced. If you like the intensity, but you think it's too wide, you could decrease the radius of the Gaussian blur on one or both of the levels. Or if you didn't like the intensity quite, you could adjust the opacity of one of them to lower it down. But I'm thinking we're going to see it small like that. So if we can increase the contrast like this, it's probably better. If we can make it a little exaggerated. And then if you wanted to have a little bit of an offset, like we had before, you could just grab these layers and pull them down. It probably looks good for the drop shadow to be down and not so good for the glow to be down, but you could give a slight rotation to this to kind of fake it a little bit. And I am going to go into at least one of these and reduce the radius to about half of that. There we go. I like that. I like that a lot. There we go. That is how you thumbnail. I mean, how I made a thumbnail, right? And when you're done with all this, you would simply export it as a JPEG. I'm going to save my file, and then I'm going to export as a JPEG because YouTube doesn't like large files like a PNG to be uploaded. There's a file limit, so JPEG it is. There we go. Okay, and of course, this video is going to need a thumbnail too, so quickly, here's how I made the thumbnail for this video. The first thing I did was I took a screenshot of Affinity photo with the previous thumbnail in it, and then I opened up OBS and used my webcam to film this video of me trying to hold the hold my hands in such a way as if I was examining a proof of a photo or something, or holding up a tablet. And then I opened up that photo, or one of those photos, back in Affinity Photo. There we go. Okay, so let me just hide some of this stuff first. Show you how I built it up. So I thought that this one, I had two of them. I have this one and this one. And I just thought this was more engaging, more dynamic. So I went with this. I actually scaled it a little bit. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see I kind of did scale it a bit and kind of pushed it into this corner here just to have a little bit better framing. I pasted the screenshot I had taken, and I kind of rotated it and scaled it until it was about where my hands would have been holding it. I also just tried a few different layer effects until I found one that I thought looked okay. I went with glow and made it like 64% opacity, so you can kind of see my arm through it. So it's some kind of futuristic Minority Report display panel thing. I also flipped it horizontally because I wanted it to be like I'm looking at it the correct way and you, the audience, are seeing the backside of it. Then I duplicated my backplate and put it above this image. So I have this backplate here. I mean, it looks the same to you. I masked out basically everything except for my hands. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but can I preview the mask I've made here? I just made a mask and then I used the paintbrush to paint it in such a way that that my fingers that I'm masking out everything except for my fingers, which are on top of this layer. The finishing touch really was I added one more layer that would sit between my hand layer and the panel layer, where I just airbrushed in some shadows lightly just to add a little bit more realism, like as if my hands were casting some amount of shadow back onto the display, or that the display was casting some shadow onto my hand, just to sell the believability. And then I added some Affinity icons here, masked out the old ones. Okay, done. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and if you'd like to see the video that is the thumbnail for, just check it out here, and I hope you enjoy that information as well.